Seated. Thank you very much for being here today. COVID-19 has really made this an unusual Mother's Day, and of course, we're living in a really strange time because of it. I'm real interested to see what our new normal is going to be. That virus is going to be with us from now on. So how are we going to adjust to it, and what's that going to look like 6 months or a year from now? It'll be an interesting adjustment as we go through these times. I did find out what the number 19 in COVID-19 stands for, and that's the amount of weight I gained during the time we were under lockdown, and so hopefully we can get back in and be a little healthier in a lot of levels. I meant to tell you last week, I'm actually a hologram. We've recorded our song leading and our prayers and so on. This is hologram technology. I'm actually on Jacksonville Beach this morning in Florida, and so we'll do this from now on, I think. So, but it is a Mother's Day. We want to honor our mothers in spite of all the difficulties and the strange things that are going on. We are grateful to our moms. And as I was looking for some stories about mothers, I ran across one about a woman named Aramati Mangayama, who gave birth to twins last year, the fall of last year, in India. Now, that's not too unusual until you read on in the story and find out that she was 74 years old when she gave birth. She had struggled with infertility during her lifetime, and so finally at that late age, they did some fertility treatments, and she bore 2 girls. Strange to think about, unusual. I read on, found out that somebody thinks the reason that God gave young women children is because if it was an older woman, if she laid down to take her nap, she might forget what she did with the baby. And so this 74-year-old woman is an unusual case in regard to motherhood. In fact, they called her the oldest mother in the world. But that led me to start thinking about Sarah, mother who gave birth to Isaac when she was about 90 years old. And there are some stories and some events attached to Sarah that are really important, I think, for us. And so I want to put this sermon into 2 aspects. The first aspect, I just want to talk about some of the incidents with Sarah. Second aspect, I want us to make application first to our moms, then to the rest of us, because there are some biblical principles about Sarah that apply to all of us as well. Now, not only does she give birth to Isaac, but she gives birth to people of faith, in a sense. Abraham is called the father of nations in Genesis 17, verses 4 and 5. But Sarah becomes the mother of nations as a result of God's supernatural impact on her. Verse 16 of Genesis 17, God says this about her: I will bless her, and moreover I will give you a son by her. I will bless her, and she shall become nations. Kings of people shall come from her. Sarah would become nations. In Isaiah chapter 51, Isaiah gives us this picture. He said, listen to me, you who pursue righteousness, you who seek the Lord, the rock from which you are hewn, the quarry from which you are dug. Look to Abraham your father and to Sarah who bore you. One of the aspects, and one part of Sarah's story and our story, is the supernatural impact, the visitation of God on Sarah. Had it not been for God miraculously causing her to bear Isaac at age 90 or 91, there would not have been a Jewish nation. And as a result, if that had not come, you and I wouldn't be worshiping the living God through Jesus. And so you can look back at God's hand in the life of Sarah and this great miracle that happens there. So let's look at some things about Sarah, first of all. God played a name game with Sarah. She is called Sarai, first of all, as she's introduced into Scripture. But God changes her name. Notice Genesis 15. God said to Abraham, "As for Sarai, your wife, you shall not call her Sarai, but Sarah or Sarah it shall be her name. And then I will bless her and give her a son by her, and so give you a son by her," and so forth. Sarai means my lady, but Sarah, means princess. And you know, as the Jewish people and God gives names to people, there's significance to those names. It's not just a name, but there's something for her to live up to. So she changes from being Abraham's lady, my lady, to being God's princess. So the name game. But then there's the beauty contest. Remember in Genesis chapter 12, there was a famine. And Abraham and Sarah, or Abram and Sarai, go down into Egypt. And Abraham says to her, "You know, you're really good looking. And everybody's going to want you." And she's older at the time. "But everybody's going to want you, and they're going to kill me to have you. So you tell everybody you're my sister." So they get down into Egypt, and she tells that, and Pharaoh brings her into his house. And Abraham is blessed, but Pharaoh is cursed. And as Pharaoh realizes what this is about, he gives Sarai back to Abram and sends them out of Egypt with all the blessings that they had. So we have the name game and the beauty contest with Sarai. But then there's the sense of humor that Sarah had. But she had some bad timing. Over in Genesis 17, verse 17, the next verse, Abraham fell on his face and laughed and said to himself, "Shall a child be born to a man who's 100 years old? Shall Sarah, who is 90 years old, bear a child?" So Abraham is told, "You're going to have a son through Sarah." And he laughed. Next chapter, chapter 18, verse 12. Sarah overhears conversation that she's going to bear a son. Sarah laughed to herself, saying, "After I'm worn out and my Lord is old, shall I have pleasure?" And God fusses at Sarah because she laughs, but he doesn't fuss at Abraham. What's the difference? Well, the speculation is Abraham laughs with joy. He just can't believe that God's going to give him this child, and he laughs with happiness and joy over what God is going to do for him. Sarah kind of laughs scornfully, we think. Kind of snubs her nose at God and says, "How can this be? This is just a silly thing. 90 years old and going to bear a son." So she had a sense of humor. She laughed. But she had some bad timing with it. Number four, there's that supernatural experience that we mentioned a little while ago. She's about 90 years old when Isaac is born. His name means laughter. And you can imagine her talking to her son all the years that he was with her. And she's calling him laughter. And she remembers her laughter. She remembers Abraham's laughter. And she remembers and thinks about, and Isaac would think about, how he was supposed to bring laughter and joy into the presence of his parents. But this supernatural experience reflects the power of God. This is not something that was done by man's ingenuity. It wasn't fertility treatments that gave Sarah Isaac. It wasn't the quick thinking of Sarah who says to Abraham, "I tell you what we're going to do. You have intimate relations with Hagar, and the son that's born to Hagar, according to our custom, he'll be considered my son. And then you will have fulfilled what God said." Abraham says, "All right." And Ishmael is born to Hagar. But you remember the story of the disruption and the problems that happened as a result of that birth, and that they're still going on today. Now, it's not man's ingenuity, not how clever we are, but it was the power of God. It was the miraculous birth who brings about the nation of Israel and the church that would come through Israel through what Jesus did. In fact, Romans 4, verse 4, the Apostle Paul says that Abraham is our father, as well as the Jewish people's father. He's our father, Abraham. And last, there is the legacy. Sarah brings about a lasting legacy with her descendants. In Hebron, there is a place in Israel. There's a place built by Herod over the cave of Machpelah. Now, the cave of Machpelah is the place that Abraham buys to bury Sarah. She dies, he buys the cave, he puts her body in that cave. Years later, Herod built this structure around the cave to protect the cave. Now, you can visit there. My first trip to Israel, that was one of the places we went. In fact, we were the first Christian group that our guide had ever brought to Hebron. But he's brought many Jewish people there. Because in Hebron, not only is Sarah buried in the cave of Machpelah, but Abraham is, Isaac is, Rebekah is, Jacob and Leah are as well. And you can go into the area, and it's hard to see this in the slide. They put a door over it so you don't touch it. But there is a cenotaph behind this door, and that's a large structure. It's kind of like a headstone in our cemetery. But every one of the patriarchs and every one of the matriarchs has their own cenotaph. And Jewish people particularly, and some Arab people, will come to this place, and they will honor Abraham. In this particular case, it's Sarah. This is her cenotaph. And descendants of Abraham and Sarah come from all over the world to come to this place and honor their ancestors. Could you imagine what it would be like if George Washington was literally, physically the father of all Americans? We'd go to Mount Vernon, and we'd stand in awe of his tomb, and we'd honor him. We honor him as Americans, but we'd honor him as family as well. And the Jewish people will come for miles to stand at these places and honor their ancestors. Now, let's make some application. First to moms, and then to the rest of us. First of all, we understand that the name game applies to us too. The name is an important part of who we are. The wise man said, "A good name is to be chosen rather than riches, and favor is better than silver or gold." We've seen that in the last few weeks. The economy tanked in days. Now we're going to be digging out of a hole as a result of what has happened with this virus. Riches go away, and they go away quickly sometimes. But a good name, that's more important, isn't it? A name is something that reminds us of character and reputation and sometimes of authority. In Psalm 20, verse 7, he says, "Some trust in chariots, some in horses, but we trust in the name of the Lord our God." Not just in the Lord, that's important, but that name of the Lord is his reputation, his character. What do you know about the character and the reputation of God? One thing you know is God always does what he says. He brings about what he determines is going to happen. Well, you and I have been given a new name. And we in America don't typically name our children for character qualities that we want them to have. We have names that we choose based on family more than those kinds of things. My name is Perry because that's a family name. My parents didn't give me that name so that I would be fruitful there and so on. That's not the purpose of my name. But my dad's name was that, and way down the line or up the line somewhere, I had an ancestor with that name. So the character quality of my name has nothing to do with the reason I was named. In the Hebrew world, it does. They want you to live up to the name that you're given. Isaac was given the name Laughter, and he was to be a joyous person and bring laughter into the lives of his parents. But you and I have been given a new name. We wear the name of Christ. There's something about that that's really important. And moms, it's really important for you to live up to that name in front of your children. Really important for those children to see the reality of your faith in their life, in your life. But that's important for all of us, isn't it? We all set that example. Somewhere somebody's watching to see what we're about. Secondly, there is that beauty contest. Wise man said, charm is deceitful, beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. We can think about the external beauty, and we do things, men and women do things to look better and feel better about ourselves and so on. But God says there's a beauty that's far better, far deeper than that external. I'm sure you've seen the celebrity pictures, the before and after, the plain picture, and then when they added makeup and so on, or maybe when they were young and then when they're old. You know, that beauty is just fleeting. It's only here for a little while. But what lasts is that internal beauty. And Peter reminded wives to not let their adorning be external, the braiding of hair, the putting on of gold jewelry, clothing, so on, but to adorn the hidden person of the heart with imperishable beauty and a gentle spirit, which in God's sight is very precious. Moms, you understand that important. You understand how it is to have that right attitude, that right spirit in front of your children and your family. But all of us need that as well. It's not just about going to the gym and buffing up and looking better physically. If we spend as much time on our spirit as we do on our bodies, I wonder what we'd look like spiritually. I wonder what we would be in the eyes of others and of God. Then how about leading with laughter? Laughter is an important thing to us. The writer of Proverbs says this, a joyful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bone. How often it is that moms are the key source of joy in the family. How often it's been that moms are the ones who bring about the happiness within a family. One man said the shortest distance between two people is laughter. I kind of like that. Kind of connect with people that make you laugh, don't you? Or when you make someone laugh, you kind of connect with them. And we love to laugh. Child's laughter is contagious, isn't it? Watch this. Well, that's a little plug for my grandson. But I laughed at it the first time I saw it, and I still laugh at it, and I've seen it several times. And you laughed at it, and you don't even know him. So, but that's the way it is. There's something in us that wants joy and laughter in our life. We want an Isaac in our life. We want somebody there to make us smile, to make us laugh, and that's an important quality for our moms as well as for the rest of us as we live out our lives. Again, in Ecclesiastes 3, there's a time to laugh, he said. Laughter's good. It's a good medicine for us. You know, the Lord even laughs. Oops. Didn't put that one in. The Lord even laughs. He says in Psalm 37, verse 13, the Lord laughs at the wicked, for he sees that his day is coming. And he laughs at a little bit different things than we do. But even the Lord laughs. Okay, we're going to be people of faith as well. Like Abraham and Sarah, sometimes we struggle with faith. We struggle with the issue of believing God and following God and trusting God, don't we? Abraham had a trust issue with God at the time. Sarah did. And yet they worked through it so that Abraham becomes the father of the faithful. In Genesis 15 and verse 6, God says of him, he believed the Lord, Abraham believed the Lord, and he counted it to him as righteousness. And that verse is repeated 3 times in the New Testament. Counted to him as righteousness because he believed the Lord. That's important. And our faith is a faith that has to grow. We are not mature in our faith right off the bat. We have times to develop that. Paul told Timothy that his faith began in his mother and his grandmother. Think that's important? Moms, grandmoms? Important to help those children get who God is. Not just by words, but by action. A lot of what we do is taught, not taught. We see and we want what mom has. Then we're open to being taught. Really want to encourage moms to be people of faith in front of their children. Dads too. I want to encourage you to really practice at home the faith that you read about in Scripture. And don't rely on a couple of hours at church to be the fulfillment of your child's spiritual need. It really is a lot more important and a lot deeper than just a couple of hours here on this campus. Moms and dads have an important part of developing the person of faith in their children. But last, we want to leave a legacy. Just like we can think about Sarah and her place in the cave of Machpelah and the cenotaph, where people come and respect and honor her for her life, we need to leave a legacy as well. Proverbs 31:28, that her children rise up and call her blessed, her husband also when he praises her. Now, what a great tribute to a mom. And many sermons I've done at funerals, one of the verses that pops up for moms has been this passage. She was a blessed person, and her husband praises her as well. What do you want to leave on your tombstone? When your descendants step at the place at your graveside and they read your tombstone, what do you want them to remember about you? What do you want your friends to remember when they come and view you, your relatives, people who know about you? What do you want on your tombstone? What will that little dash between birth and death dates, what's in that little dash about your life? And I think we all would like to have that legacy that said, we followed God, we believed God, and He counted it to us as righteousness. And others rose up and called us blessed because of the life that we lived. George Washington said this, and we'll close. My mother was the most beautiful woman I ever saw. All I am, I owe to my mother. I attribute all my success in life to the moral, intellectual, and physical education I received from her. Now, the father of our country, the one that it appears God chose to providentially lead this country into existence, was molded by his mother. Someone has said the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. That influence of Mrs. Washington with George was phenomenal. He attributed his successes in life to what she did for him, how she taught him. So we're going to close this morning with our invitation. We're going to encourage you to respond if you have a prayer request or some need today. But I really want to urge us all to look at the life of Sarah, to really see who she was and all the struggles that she had, but she winds up a pretty significant person. And in all those categories, I think there's some things for each one of us. If you have prayer requests this morning, we want to encourage you to come. Our baptistry is not ready this week. We had some issues with the baptistry, so it's not full. Should be up and running next week. But if you'd like to be baptized today, we'll find a place. Gene has a swimming pool. We'll all go to Gene's house. And so if you have a need this morning, we want to encourage you to come. We're going to stand and sing, and if we can serve you.